Hey, this is Frank Honus, and I want to welcome you to the Pure Life Podcast, helping individuals live with sexual integrity through Jesus Christ. Well, hey everyone, welcome to episode 87 of the Pure Life Podcast. My name is Frank Honus. So glad that you can be watching or listening to the podcast this week, hopefully on purelifepodcast.com or watching on our YouTube channel or our Vimeo channel. The podcast is all over the place, and I hope that you're finding us through one of those means. So glad to have you. I took the week off last week for the podcast, but I wanted to share with you this week, come back and share a little bit about community and just the value of community. And so this week on the podcast, I want to talk about finding healing through community. And before I do that, I just want to share with you about the website. Sometimes I kind of hit on the website a little bit. I want to encourage you to go over to purelifepodcast.com. There, purelifepodcast.com. There's a lot of great content on the website. Video of the podcast, audio of the podcast. You can go back into the archives all the way back to the very first episode of the Pure Life Podcast to listen to that. If you want to do a topic search, you can do a topic search on the website. There's a lot of great content throughout the week too that I post dealing with sexual addiction, sexual purity, and articles and infographics and photos and different kinds of links and just resources to help you and to encourage you in your walk for purity. So again, I want to encourage you to check out purelifepodcast.com. You can listen to the podcast on there. You can watch it. There's also all of our social links are on there for Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all those things. Also hope that you're able to follow along with the Porn Destroys Instagram campaign that is slowly kind of rolling out. I've been kind of throwing some of those up there, two or three of them a week, I guess. And so keep checking that out. Just a little campaign. Really, it's a campaign to make you and I aware and our community aware about pornography. So a couple extras on there you can check out. Anyway, all that stuff is on purelifepodcast.com. Please take some time to check that out and just familiarize yourself and subscribe there and get all the updates. So like I said, I want to talk about finding healing through community. And so here's kind of the big idea this week on the podcast. It's that sexual addiction, pornography addiction, masturbation, acting out, it's bigger than you and I. It's so much bigger than you and I. And true healing can only be found by finding others who we can share our struggles with. Finding people, finding other men, guys, finding other men, women, if you're finding other women that you can share your life with, that you can share your struggles with. That's really ultimately where we find healing. It's not done by ourselves. It's not done by me alone. My healing and my recovery from pornography was not accomplished by Frank's, white knuckling it, that's for sure. I needed other people. And so, what I find is that the more that I talk with men who struggle with sexual addiction, I find a pretty common theme amongst many of those guys, many of those men. And it's really this. They are an island separated from the mainland. It's kind of the way I wrote that because, if you think about it, and I was there at a time in my life before where I was like this island that was isolated, that was separated from people. I didn't have any really deep relationships or friendships in my life, and I really struggled. I think that was a factor, could have been a contributing factor of my ongoing sexual addiction, is I just didn't know anybody. And I didn't really even choose to be in relationship with other guys. And so no one really knew me. I was alone. I was by myself, and I chose to be. I even talked with a guy, recently, who ran into a guy recently at Walmart, and a friend of mine. And he shared with me that some of his struggles, and I wanted to encourage him a little bit through really trying to find community, really trying to find a support, either a support group or Find people in his life that he can share with. He shared with me that recently he found one person that he began to open his life up. But this stuff is so difficult. There's shame there, there's embarrassment there, there's fear there. There's so many factors, and I think things that hold us back from really finding people. And so, men and women, we live in isolation. We don't have friends or relationships or other people that know the real us, that know the real me. And even though accountability is necessary, right? Accountability is so necessary. We need to have accountability partners in our lives. It's more than just accountability. It's more than just finding accountability. We talk a lot about finding accountability on the podcast, but as I try to share with men who are walking and trying to walk in recovery from pornography, I try to really encourage them to find relationships with other men that go deeper than just Sunday afternoon football, that go deeper than, that golf outing or, hanging out at the bar or whatever. Even though, those things for a lot of men are fun, it doesn't go very deep. And we as men need to be connected and wired with other guys and with other men and men that we can share the deepest parts of our life with, even struggles like pornography and masturbation, sexual purity issues. So when I was thinking back, actually, when I first joined a support group and when I first shared my struggles with a group for the first time, it was the only way I could think about it is that it was the biggest weight that had been lifted off of me. And I think I got a glimpse of the fact that I was not alone, that not only was I not alone in my struggles, but there were other men who struggled the way that I did, who did not look down on me, did not, discourage me in any way, did not point the finger, but they were there to support me and encourage me in my struggles. And it was the total opposite of probably what I thought would take place, but I felt like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulder. And this was no coincidence. This was no coincidence what I walked into in this support group. This is the way that community, that support, is supposed to work. We need each other. If anything you hear in this podcast, hear this, that you need other people in your life. You need other men in your life. You need other women in your life. Whether you're a man or a woman, you need people in your life to hold your arms up, to support you, to encourage you, to challenge you, to hold you accountable, to know you deeply. And so I want to share with you just real quickly about a really cool opportunity that has been a part of, that I've participated in, that's been a part of my life before. And it's a 3-day intensive workshop for men, also for their spouses, called the Underground. Okay, it's the Underground workshop. And you can find all of this information at the UGM, that's THE, the UGM.com. That's where you go to the website. The Underground is, like I said, a 3-day intensive workshop for men who are struggling with sexual addiction issues, pornography, masturbation, homosexuality, any kind of sexual struggle you might be having. This is a fantastic 3-day workshop that I actually was a part of. I went to 2 workshops. The third one I went more as a kind of a witness or a leader to speak into other guys' lives. But this workshop revolutionized my life and really changed my life and helped me to peel back the onion layers of my heart, to see the pain and the hurt that I was struggling with, the things that really were major contributing factors to my addiction. And so I just want to encourage you to go on to their website. Again, that's the UGM, which stands for Underground Ministry, theugm.com, and take a look at the things that they have going on there. There are some really, really great resources that you can check out there. The UGM, they have workshops coming up here in the springtime, in the summertime, for men, also for women, spouses. All those dates are on the website there. And I'll also be posting the PDFs and the updates that they send out on our website too, on purelifepodcast.com. So really want to encourage you to check that out. That is a really practical way that you can begin to get community in your life, to get people in your life that want to know you, that want to challenge you, And it's a great place to start to try to understand this, why we do what we do, what pornography addiction is all about, what sexual addiction is all about. But it's also a great way to kind of network yourself to other men, to other women, women, spouse, if you're, spouse of a struggler, there's also a workshop for you. So no matter who you are, this is a fantastic opportunity. I pray that you'll take a look at and check out the UGM.com. That's the Underground Ministry. I have a couple friends that do a great job of just running that workshop and just helping guys, educating guys, encouraging guys on their purity and recovery journey. So just real practically, before we kind of wrap up the podcast, what kinds of community should you be finding? You might be asking, we're talking about community in this podcast this week, support, finding other people to encourage you, finding relationships, getting out from isolation. But so what kinds of community, practically, what kinds of community should you be finding? If you're walking in recovery, you're trying to walk in purity, well, I think number one, you need to be finding accountability partners, right? Real obvious kind of first step. If you're struggling and you continue to struggle, you need to find 1 to 3 people, maybe 1, 2, 3 people of the same sex that you can be talking to, maybe on a weekly basis, a daily basis, about your struggles. Maybe you set up an arrangement where they call you once a week and you kind of dialogue and discuss. But you need accountability support partners to kind of reach into your life and that you talk to, that you reach out to, as well as they reach out to you. And so you can begin that dialogue with each other. So important. Number 2, the second thing you need and really want to consider, I find so many men stop and don't do this, is a weekly support group, right? Some kind of support group that meets probably weekly. Hopefully that's a good, I think that's probably a pretty good consistency, but a weekly support group. And whether that's live or online, that's kind of up to you. A lot of guys struggle with finding local support groups that are local to their area and their community. So there's tons and tons of options for online groups, and a few. You can go back to the one podcast in the recent series we did called Stepping Stones in Recovery to check out some great resources that I shared in that podcast for finding online groups, and one of those being x3groups.com. x3groups.com is a great online support group structure that you can join a support group online through XXX Church and get to know some guys, meet weekly and with 5 to 10 guys, and just a fantastic opportunity there. So you want to definitely try to become a part of a weekly support group. What about also too the idea, and I just mentioned here, but taking that to another level, and taking another step in your recovery and finding a workshop, like I just mentioned, going to a conference, maybe it's an intensive 3-day workshop where you just get away from life. You schedule a couple of days off from work and you go to this workshop and you do some real heart work, right? Or a conference of some kind where you really get down to the deep issues of what's going on inside of your life. So 3 really practical ways there that you can find community, that you should be finding community. And you can find community within your church, right? And through the, maybe the pastors on staff at your church, the men in your church, Bible studies that are going on. So just tons of ways there that you can find that needed community in your life. The big idea here is this, is that you and I, we want our lives to become an open book to others, right? We don't want secrets. There's no secrets. There's no more hiding. Bringing the darkness into the light. And Ephesians 5, chapter 5, verse 8 through 11, and verse 14 says this. I thought this was a fantastic way to wrap up tonight, or this week's podcast. It says, "For once you were full of darkness. For once you were full of darkness, but now you have light from the Lord. So live as people of the light. For this light within you produces only what is good and right and true. Carefully determine what pleases the Lord. Take no part in worthless deeds of evil darkness. Instead, look at this word, expose them." How do we expose darkness? We bring it into the light by shining community, accountability, support, by bringing people and introducing people into our life. That's how we expose it. For the light makes everything visible. This is why it is said, "Awake, O sleeper, rise up from the dead, and Christ will give you light." So I want to challenge you this week to expose the darkness in your life. I want to challenge you this week to get out of yourself. Men, we have a really hard time getting to know other guys. We have a really hard time, reaching out to other men and asking for help. Whether that's because we try to busy ourselves with work or we just feel like we can just beat this thing on our own. Believe me, you can't beat pornography on your own. You can't beat this kind of addiction on your own by yourself. So I want to encourage you to reach out to 2 or 3 guys this week. Maybe really try to find a local support group in your area, whether it's a live one or an online support group. Find a workshop or a conference, some way that you can bring community in your life, because again, true healing will come in your life when you reach out to people and you bring people into your life and you expose that darkness. And the biggest part of that comes when we admit to ourselves that we cannot beat pornography on our own, when we cannot beat addiction on our own, that we are helpless by ourselves, that we need other people. So I want to encourage you with that this week. Bring that darkness into the light, and please let me know how you're doing. I love to hear your feedback. You can always email me at frank@purelifepodcast.com. Check out the website and be encouraged. There's all kinds of resources there for you to check out, audio and video of the podcast, as well as archives from the past and all kinds of resources to encourage you on your recovery journey. My name is Frank Honus. I want to thank you for checking out episode 87 of the Pure Life Podcast. We'll see you next week. God bless. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the podcast this week. I want to encourage you to check out our website, purelifepodcast.com, for a lot of great blogs and resources and podcasts from previous episodes to help you along in your journey for sexual purity. Remember, you can listen to the podcast on our website, iTunes, and Stitcher Radio. And if you need to contact me for any reason, if you have questions or comments, email me at frank@purelifepodcast.com. That's frank@purelifepodcast.com. See you next week.